If people could slowly make their way to their seats, we'll get this underway. We have a tight schedule to stick to today. Thank you very much, councillors, for coming along today. We will kick right into it. Are there any apologies? Councillor Dixon?
Just an apology. Councillor Reid might be a little bit late, but she is going to attend.
Thank you, councillor. Could I get a mover for that apology for lateness? Councillor McPhail, seconded by Councillor Phillips. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And against, the motion is carried. So we'll jump straight into the hearings for submissions. Would the Interim Chief Executive like to comment at all before we jump into it? No? Happy? If I could invite first submitter up today, Gemma. Oh, actually, hold on, sorry, just before we get into that, I'll just run through some quick housekeeping on how today's going to go. So before we begin, some housekeeping. Upon entering the chambers, people will be given a handout detailing the process and giving their submission. They will have 5 minutes to speak. A bell will sound at 4 minutes to give time to wrap up, and again at 5 minutes to indicate the time is complete. Again, we're on a tight schedule, so we'll be quite strict on this. There will be a further 5 minutes after this for questions from elected members. I would please ask that elected members stick to questions of the submitter. Today's about listening rather than debating the items. We will have plenty of time to debate later in the month, later next month. So listening today and asking questions directly related to the presentation. Just like to remind everyone, as per our standing orders, that I am able to end the presentation at any time if elected members and or staff are aggressively criticised, the presentation turns disrespectful and or offensive, or if there is commentary on any legal proceedings. Just so everyone is aware, this is also being live streamed. So without further ado, we will get underway, and I welcome up our first guest just up here, and pop on the mic when you're ready.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Bell. Nice to see everybody again, and for being able to be here today. We submitted our information through, so it's obviously with you guys, but we just wanted to have the opportunity to come along and talk to some of the points and ask any questions. I've received any questions from you guys that you were looking for clarification on what we were talking about. For those who I haven't seen for a while, I'm Gemma O'Neill. I am the Eastern Active Coordinator based here in Gore for Active Southland, and this is my colleague Kieran.
I don't think I've met anybody in here before, so nice to be here, nice to see you all. I am currently the Special Projects Lead for Active Southland, so I've come in to do a few specific pieces of work around disability framework, and quite a bit of work around council submissions in those pieces. That's sort of generic theme, having worked in both sport, high performance sport and local government previously.
So we'll kick into it. One of our major aspects of our work we have with the Gore District Council is around the relationships we have with the staff that we work with on a fairly regular basis across Parks and Rec, Ready for Living, the events team, etc. And we are hugely thankful to those working relationships with those staff and what it means for both organisations and the benefit it brings to the work that we're doing for the community. We really are looking to strengthen that into the coming years. Preferably, we would have really loved to see the creation of a targeted and focused partnership agreement with GDC in regards to how we can, exactly what I just said, benefit each other's mahi in the spaces that overlap in the areas of sport, play, active recreation, active transport, and those such things. We've been really grateful for being involved in some particular projects over the last wee while, especially the Tulloch Park project in Matola. We've really enjoyed seeing how that's progressed, the community consultation, the activities and the facilities that will be down there at the end. They're just pretty amazing to see for our small area, and we think it'll have a significant community impact once it's finished, so we're looking forward to seeing that come to fruition throughout the year. as I said, our relationship with you guys is the most important part of what we do and how we work together. And that's something that we would like to have the ability to work with staff over the coming year, leading into the long-term plan discussions around what that could look like, and having a draft version of that specific agreement in place leading into that time frame would be hugely beneficial.
I think probably something to make clear is we're not here today to ask for money, and we're also not contesting any of your proposals. We're kind of focusing on our wheelhouse, what we do and what our relationships with your staff and you guys as elected members will look like moving forward. We have pulled out a few specific focus areas for us where we think there is key crossover with decisions that you'll be making and the work that you guys do moving forward. So I'll start off just touching on disability and universal design. It's something which for a long time Active Southland has been an interested party and has been working with communities across the region. Something that we would really strongly advocate for is for the organisation to develop a better understanding of universal design and understand how that can be implemented into your projects. So that's not just sport and recreation, that is access, so footpaths and the like as well. Really focusing on enabling everybody in the community to participate, play a full and active role in the community, which is particularly relevant with the ageing population predictions for the region.
Under our one of our core focus areas being play, we really see that with the ageing demographic that Kieran has mentioned around things being intergenerational where possible. So making sure that our young people are included, but obviously that their older family members and loved ones are also catered for in these provisions, so where they can be doing things together basically and enjoying being active. That goes the same for events as well. We really do think that the GDC's events are wonderful parts of our community, and we work closely with the events team and we'll always do what we can to support and back those events and make them more accessible and inclusive for as many people as possible, as Kieran said, for people to be able to enjoy and get involved with in the region.
I think just to wrap us up, I've just heard the bell go. One of the things that we're really keen to ensure is that whilst we don't foresee risk with depreciation not being funded this year for sport and recreation facilities, we think it does provide an opportunity to look at what that spend will be in the future and ensure that those facilities are fit for purpose in the future and that meet the needs of your community. It's really, really important as your population ages to keep them fit and healthy, and those facilities provide that space.
Awesome, thank you guys so much, that was great. Councillors, questions?
One of the in recent years we've had frisbee golf come along, and we've made some provision for that in a couple of different places. What's next?
I think the question for what's next for us as an organisation is always around, we have all the information and knowledge of what's really good and helpful for people, but if we don't start with talking to the people about what they would like to see next, what's important for them, what their interests are and what their needs are, then we can make all the plans in the world we like, but it might not be what people are actually interested in participating in or interacting with. So whenever we talk about what's next, my first step would always be, let's have a yarn with the people to see what they think next is and to work forward on those things together.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question. Active transport, is that like scooters, cycling?
Walking, anything that doesn't involve being sat behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Behind a wheel, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. A question from me. You talked about targeted agreements. Do you have any of those with other councils or templates from around the country that you can draw on?
So there's some good examples from around the country, not currently in place in Southland, so we don't have those agreements at all. It's something that will be asking the other councils for as well, just to ensure that we can have the most productive working relationship possible.
That's great, thank you. Any other questions from elected members? anything else you'd like to say?
No, just thank you very much for the time to be here today. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Do we have our next speaker here? I'm looking for our... Oh, yeah. All prepared on the rules there, Bex? Welcome. Welcome to the chamber. When you're ready, your time will start. Ballot 4 minutes, finish up at 5, and then questions for 5 minutes. Awesome. Oh, and just spoke you on if you press the button. Haha, there you go.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Rebecca Amundsen, and I am the project lead for the project called Connected Murihiku, which hopefully you know a little bit about. My submission kind of outlines the background as to how the project came around. Basically, a Just Transitions project. 7 work streams. One of them was around how do we make our communities more sustainable and resilient, and that was where this project called Connected Murihiku basically was born from. So firstly, I'd just like to thank the council for their involvement in the joint committee for this project, and we're very lucky to have Paul on the committee, and also we have Robin Morris from Gore as one of the community representatives, so it's great to have multiple representations from the Gore community on the committee for the project. So part of the project's goal is to connect with the various community organisations and people across the region who work in the community sector, and the Gore staff, including Anne, Guillaume and Kylie, have been really valuable help in helping connect us with those people as well, and they've also provided really valuable insights into the Gore community and I guess the needs or the gaps or the things that are important to the Gore community as part of this project, which has been a fantastic element of that engagement. And you know, as you know, Southland is a really large region, and it's made up of a lot of diverse communities, and all of those communities have their own kinds of ways of looking at the world and things that they want to achieve for themselves and their people in their communities. And so it is really important that we get all of these diverse views feeding into this project, so that we can make sure that what we're doing is in response to those community organisations. I do have a flyer here, which I can leave, which kind of outlines, I guess, the sort of main areas of focus that we have when it comes to connecting communities. So one of the key things that came out when we did the community engagement originally for this project was that a lot of people in community organisations felt like they were working in isolation or in silos, and they wanted help to better connect with other organisations and more connection with knowing what else is going on in their community. And another thing that came through really strongly was around the fact that lots of organisations are quite stretched when it comes to their resourcing, so they spend a lot of time they spend all of their time and energy focused on helping the people or the cause or the issue that they're focused on, and they don't want to use their time and energy or funding to do kind of awareness raising or promotion. You know, most community organisations don't want to do self-promotion. But that lack of visibility means that people then don't know that they exist, they don't know that the services are there that they can tap into, and all of those kinds of flow-on effects. So one of the things that we've been quite focused on is how we can help with both of those areas, that connecting area and that visibility area. The other thing that's kind of coming up as we're having these conversations with people across the region is what I've been calling sort of some key insights. So what are the issues that organisations are really grappling with? So that's things like governance training and upskilling of their boards. For a lot of volunteer organisations especially, they have a lot of turnover of board members. Think of your school committees and sports teams and things like that. So there's new people coming in all the time, and they need help understanding what good governance looks like and how good committees run. Working with volunteers is another area, and I've had lots of conversations with Anne Puller at the council about that, and we're sort of working on how we can support volunteers and organisations that work with volunteers across the region. Funding is another one, of course, and I don't have to explain why, but everybody wishes they had more money so they could do more things, because there's always needs and things that they want to improve on. So we have a website coming. It should be launched next week, and the beginnings of all of this stuff and all of this information is going to be on there, and we're using the community-led approach. So the goal is to have the website available and then go around the region and talk to people and get feedback about what else could be on there, how we could improve it and make it more useful. So that's a bit of a summary in a nutshell. Happy to take questions.
Brilliant, bang on. Thank you very much. Councillors, questions? Councillor Val.
How secure is your funding moving forward with all the changes that are taking place?
Very good question. My understanding is that we have an MB contract, and that contracts will be honoured. And so we have the first, 18 months confirmed, and after that we will be seeking funding, of course.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Fraser?
Once your website's up and running and that information is in there, it's generally just updated. Is that where mainly all your information will be going and where everybody will be going to?
Yes.
So from my question from that would be, our input would actually come back from that, other than you looking for funding probably in the future?
So the goal is that the website will kind of be evolving all the time, and that we'll be adding new information and new insights as we learn them. So we've got information on what I've loosely called the networks within the network of community organisations. So that's things like the youth sector, health, rural environment and that kind of thing. Then we've got some information about support and resources, so that's where that governance training and stuff kind of is. And we're looking at, apart from just providing information online, what else might we be able to do? Because one of the feedbacks that we are getting is that there is heaps of information online around governance training, for example, but it's quite overwhelming, especially for people who are new to governance. Maybe they don't actually know what they're looking for because they don't actually know what their problem is or the issue is that they're grappling with. And so there's a real need, I think, for sort of creating more of an opportunity around in-person training. And one of the gaps that we've identified, especially in that governance space, is that across Southland, there isn't actually a lot of opportunity for Governance 101 training that is affordable, is the word I'm looking for community organisations who maybe have a very small or zero budget. And that seems like a really big gap, and I think if our community organisations don't have the ability to get that training and learning around that kind of thing, then how do people learn better skills? So that is part of it, and also around we've had some articles written about specific kinds of things that are happening in Southland, and we hope to be able to build on that. And we had one written actually about the Ready for Living program that Gore has, because that's quite a significant piece of work, and in terms of the wider region, Gore's the only area that's had that kind of focus and been actually active in making steps in that area.
Thank you for that. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bex, just a question. Would your group then contemplate about talking or organising in some way the youth council within Southland?
That's a very good question, and not something I've given any thought to. I guess we are probably not, that's probably not really our role, but certainly if there were things we could do to support that, you know, through things like governance training or connecting them with other organisations across the region, that would be something we could do. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor, and welcome, Councillor Reid. Councillor Gardine.
Just noticed your website's linked in with the Invercargill City Councils. Is there a linkage to our website in Gore District so people, when they bring up the Gore, can get a connection?
Yes, so the website that we have at the moment is our holding page. So the Invercargill City Council has let us have a page on their Let's Talk platform that we've been able to use. But next week sometime, when you put connectedmurihiku.co.nz in, you're going to go to our own dedicated website, which does have links to all three of the councils, well, four if you count Environment Southland, in various different ways. So as councils in of themselves, but they are also identified through the funding page, for example, because most of the councils offer some form of contestable funding, even if it's just creative communities and that kind of thing. So all of the councils are on there. Yep.
Brilliant. Any last comments?
No, just thank you very much for continuing to support the Connected Murihiku project.
Thank you very much for your presentation today. Much appreciated.
Can I leave these?
Have we got our next speaker hanging in the wings? We're two in, Bronwyn, and oh, you're all caught up. Cool. No, you're all right. Oh, ready to go. Got the rules?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Awesome. Over to you.
Good, thanks. My submission is on expenditure focus for the Gore District Council for the 24-25 year. I think it needs to focus more on reduction in its spending rather than expanding its expenditure. As a ratepayer, I know there's plenty of people out there struggling to pay bills at the moment, and these rate increases seem ludicrous at a time as such. I understand the council inherited a lot of bad debt from past mismanagements, but we see it on a daily basis in the town. Changing the flags, traffic management, half a dozen guys. The other day, Bale Bailage, 5 contractors, a digger and 2 trucks, a lot of wastage. Never-ending planting of gardens. Why can they not be planted in a sustainable manner where they're just managed instead of replanted every month with the season? Just simple things, the trees, evergreens over leaf droppers, the money that's tied up in cleaning up the town when it looks such a disgusting state at this time of the year is phenomenal. Just simple things as a ratepayer would like to see a bit more thought going into planting of trees, planting of gardens, car parks reinstated instead of trees in car parks. Businesses are struggling. Elderly come to town to pay a bill. You want a car park. You can't get one, but we can find one for a tree. I'd hate to think what those trees have cost us to date in those car parks. It seems to be a never-ending cycle of pull a tree out, plant a tree, pull a tree out, damage infrastructure, plant a tree. Simple things. Mowing the side of the road between Gore and Matera. I don't see the value in it. I see the cost in it, which pushes me to make savings in my household to compensate the rate rises. Yet I see no push from the councils to negate their obligations to find savings. Just simple little things can go a long way. What's the other one? New buildings. I don't understand in this day and age why there isn't a legal requirement for a new building to have water catchment facilities. We have stormwater problems, we have water quality issue problems. A simple water tank collection system on a house, a new build, and any other house in Gore that's under the rating system should, if able, have to have a water catchment system put in place which would alleviate the pressure on the stormwater when the rains come, because the tanks would be then filling. To keep the town water supplied to the tanks, there should be a bullcock system about a third of the way up the tank on a metered system, so that people pay for the water they use, and it would teach a bit of water management. We seem to attack the rural community over the water quality issues, but we do nothing to address the problems in the town. I find that odd. Transports, why do transports not have to have water catchment facilities? The volume of water they use to wash stock trucks on a daily basis, the ratepayer is obligated to pick that cost up. There are simple solutions to problems. There just needs to be a collective movement towards finding the solutions, which focuses more on probably less educated people, more common people involved in the conversations in a roundabout way. Just to do simple things, which would inevitably see rate increases slow down at a dramatic amount, pretty much. Other than that, yeah, I can't really think of too much else that I'd like to talk about.
Thank you very much. I think you covered a whole lot of bases there. Just before, and I don't want to get this wrong, but just before we jump into questions, I think the State Highway 1 is mowed by NZTA, just that strip. Not that takes away from anything else.
I mean the bit between the side of the road and the railway lines that we seem to mow. Opposite the racecourse, we mow that big wide strip. And there's patches all the way between Gore and Matera that seem to get mowed by the Gore District Council, but other patches don't get mowed. I don't see the relevance in mowing them. Or planting trees, like on the way into Matera, that we spend a fortune cutting back off the road. Why plant them to start with? They're an ongoing cost. They don't really beautify the place. They look like a mess when they've been cut. What is the common sense in planting trees in those situations?
Fair point. Councillors' questions. Councillor Hovell?
You commented in your written submission on recycling as well,
Yep.
where you've indicated you'd like to see it, I guess, deferred for another year. So at present you've got a yellow bin and a red bin.
I get no bins in the country.
Oh, okay. All right.
And from what I see about the recycling within New Zealand, it's a farcical exercise because there's that much confusion in what is and isn't recyclable. It just seems to be a cost that's been outlaid but not really getting the benefits that were promised.
You referred to the planting in the main street. What about the way we look after our reserves? Is there anything there you think we should be looking at?
No, I have no real problems with reserves, but watching 5 people in the garden by Forestone the other day for 2 days with a digger ripping out a perfectly good garden, I just struggle to see the value in that and the cost associated put onto the ratepayers when people were struggling to keep power on and put food on the table. There was nothing wrong with that garden.
Thank you. Councillor McKenzie?
Thanks for coming in, David, and making your submission. I gather you're not a big fan of deciduous trees.
No.
At all. So
they have a place, but not in a town when they make the place look.
So you're not suggesting council goes and chops them all down, but perhaps as they get by the use-by date, replacing them possibly with an evergreen or something like that? That's the question that I'm putting to you.
Yes, definitely, and a smaller tree, because if I was a business up the main street, I'd probably be sending the council some bills for maintenance on cleaning my gutters and drains at this time of the year, because it's a hell of a cost and job to put onto businesses that are struggling as it is. There's not a place for them in a town. Though a park and that, yes, but when you drive around the town and see the state of the place at this time of the year and the man-hours and the machinery that goes into cleaning it up, it's a hell of a cost for a tree that looks ugly at this time of the year, to be fair.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Councillor McPhail?
Yeah, thanks, David, for coming in. A very short question.
Just one question, David. You come into town, do you have an expectation you see gardens? That's probably...
I don't mind seeing the gardens, but at home, when I took the house over, I went to the shop and I brought packets of flower seeds. I sowed them in the garden. I'm not a gardener, but my garden seems to grow all different sorts of flowers all year round from packets of seeds that cost me maybe $100. There is the old style cottage planting where you had different flowers coming on. I'm not, as I say, not a big gardener, but the cost of propagating all the plants every season to replant the gardens and the man hours and the time that goes into it, I think there could be a better solution to an established garden that is maintained than one that is ripped out and replanted constantly at a cost. Everything comes at a cost, and in these times we need to address the costs that are getting used.
So you'd like to see some gardens, but
Some gardens, I've got no problem with the gardens, but I think they need to be permanent plantings.
no, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Stringer?
Yeah, thanks, David. Oh, you've made it pretty apparent about the gardens there. Mine was going to be around, and knowing that the gardening side does employ quite a few staff that are in the local community. If they were still swapping those gardens out, if they swap them out, say, with vegetables that could be then on sold to at a lower cost or given to charities within the community, something like that.
Yeah, there could be a place for that to basically fund the food banks and maybe like the rest homes and the rest havens and things like that to give them a bit of produce would be, you know, I would sooner see something getting pulled out and some value to it at the end of its life than just thrown in the tip. So yeah, not a bad initiative.
Thank you, David. Any further questions? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just appreciate your time and thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Really good.
And good to see you still in the same seat, Ben.
Thank you. I see our next guests are here. Did you want to come on up if you're ready? I'd like to welcome former Mayor Tracy Hicks and Robin and Kelly to come and present to us. Welcome, guys. Take it away when you're ready and your 5-minute timer will start.
Good afternoon. So I'm Robin Morris. I'm the manager at the Community Networking Trust. Kelly is our Heartland Services coordinator there, and Tracy is the chairman of our board for a not-for-profit organisation. We've put in a submission just really to highlight the work that we do in the community, and you know the importance of making sure that there's still that social things provided for people, and you know to keep that side of the community supported, especially in these tough times. One of the particular things that we really would like to see supported, which has been a great initiative, is the Ready for Living project. I know that's a council initiative now, with Kylie and Anne have been driving that. While it's done some really good stuff for the older people, and yes, it could probably continue for some of those initiatives to keep running, I think without dedicated coordinator support there, those sort of projects always fall over because there is no one there to keep them cohesive and pull them together and drive them. It's a great initiative. We've worked in conjunction with the coordinator and Anne a lot on projects. And just something else I'd like to note is that we've had a community connector in this community since COVID. That role ends at the end of June this year. Our connector has worked with a lot of people in that older age group, and unfortunately when that service ends there will not be any dedicated service that can pick up working with those people, and that's quite a concern. Another thing is a lot of the people she works with are from different nationalities as well. I think she told us that she worked with 8 different nationalities in one day, and while people can go to places like Work and Income to get support, they don't support people who are not New Zealand citizens. And if you've got 8 different nationalities, you know, where are those 8 people going to get support from? So I think we just need to consider that we, you know, make sure we support as many social projects and services as we can as a community. I'll pass over to Kelly because I think she's got some more, you know, things that she can add into that.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, so I've, in my role as Heartland Services Coordinator down at the Community Networking Trust, Kylie and I have done quite a lot of work together We've been involved with the Ready for Living project right from the scoping groups back when Shelley Lithgow was getting things underway back then, a long time ago now. Great project. The tangible elements that Kylie has brought to the table for her older people are phenomenal. The loneliness initiatives, the over 80s parking, the swimming, highlighting to the older people in our region that these things exist now. And Kylie's got that personality and a way with older people that she can get the message across. She works really well with people in that space, and they build a level of trust with her. So when we started talking about what were some other things that the older people in the Gore District needed to be aware of about their safety and their wellbeing, we decided it was timely to host a scam awareness workshop. This sort of came around very poignantly around the same time as the older gentleman presented at Gore Police Station with the $20,000 he had been convinced to send over to the UK in a stack of books, which was then intercepted at Auckland Airport and returned to him. So we, I don't know, for want of a better term, cashed in on that media spotlight, and we held this first scam awareness workshop here at the James Cummings Centre. Very well attended. We had over 50 people come. We've then since held another one, and there has been an article in the Ensign recently that since the first one in November last year, there had been a huge reduction in reported scams to the Gore Police just because people were more aware of what to look out for. We talked about the different types of scams and how you can trust or who not to trust, and what to do if you need to find out if this is a legitimate thing, who you can talk to. So we've done that. Kylie's done her emergency readiness booklet. She's done her community directory for older people as well, so we've worked in with her on those sorts of things too. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't do those things at the C&T ourselves, but we've got Kylie, who's got this incredible skill set and a connected demographic. It just makes sense. That's just what we do, is we work in together, so we would really like to see that coordination continue.
Did you want to add anything, Casey?
Thank you for the opportunity to come along and support Robin and Kelly, which is really my role as the chair of the organisation. As you'll know, the council has long been connected to the Community Networking Trust. You currently have a member of your council on the trust, which is Councillor Mackenzie, and it's good to have that connection going on. I acknowledge the challenges that the council and all councils up and down New Zealand are having at the moment financially. It's going to be really hard, and there are going to be some organisations and some projects that will slip by the wayside. I just want to reiterate with you the importance of making sure that our community is looked after in the best way it possibly can. This organisation, Community Networking Trust, has a history of working in this area for well over 20 years. There's been a partnership with council for over 20 years, and the mana that Community Networking Trust is held in nationally, particularly by government and government agencies, is very, very high. So we've had some projects here that have been New Zealand leading, and I think about the social sector trials, which were probably about 10 years ago now, but brought some real information and change to families and to individuals. And I also think about the Hokanui Huanui that Council and Community Networking Trust have been very connected to. The government have invested lots and lots of money, lots of time and lots of expertise in making sure that the very best comes to this part of the world. And I would just urge Council, even though you are challenged financially, to still be part of that organisation and to make sure that those people that are a little bit more vulnerable than others, particularly elderly and the very young, they can be part of this community and go on and flourish into the future. So look, I don't want to take any more time, but I wish you all the best in your deliberations, but I would just say don't forget the Community Networking Trust.
Thank you very much to all three of you for those comments. I will pass on to councillors' questions. Councillor Havel.
Are you linked in any way to Connected Murihiku?
Actually, yes, I'm one of the community representatives on Connected Murihiku, and we do work in with Bex when she needs information on the Eastern Southland area. She will connect in with us, and we provide feedback for her because they don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's already a really good connected Eastern Southland organisation there.
Thank you, Robin. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald.
Thanks, Andy. Do you link in with the elderly citizens in the Salvation Army with your work? Because they work with the elderly and other groups in the community, other disadvantaged groups in the community.
We have in the past worked with Salvation Army. It depends on, I suppose, the connection we have with whoever's leading. I think Kelly can probably speak to that more at the moment. I think she has more connection.
Yeah, so thank you. So we do link into them, particularly if we get an inquiry coming into the centre, someone looking for support or looking for a pathway to get support and they're unsure where to ask. We probably don't work directly with the senior citizens as a collective, in the sense that we would probably tag team in with Kylie if we wanted to run a project that was targeted, or if we wanted to go and meet with them, because they have notoriously been quite hard to get a foot in the door there to come and speak to them. But Kylie's very good at greasing the wheels to get that happening. Probably if we're looking to work with or engage with older people as a collective, we definitely use Kylie and her Ready for Living project as a conduit, because it's broader than membership groups where you have to be a member of the senior citizens or a member of Grey Power. She's brought all those groups together as one collective, and also older people who aren't involved in those groups for whatever reason. So yeah, she's definitely the conduit to go through if we want to connect there. But yes, we do work in with the Salvation Army quite a lot.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just got a bit of a concern that you're losing your community connector. Gail,
Yes.
bit of a shame, really. So have you guys got any plans on replacing, or is there just no funding whatsoever available?
No funding at this stage. We'd have to go out and look for other funding to be able to put someone in that role. We've also got a couple of other contracts which we're waiting to hear about. The outcome of them will be after the budget, apparently, and those will both end at the end of June as well, unless they are carried on by the government. So yeah, we're just waiting at this stage. So no, that's the short answer. There is no plan B for Gail. We do have Kelly in her Heartland Services role that is going to Mataura each week as well, and she can provide the Heartland Services support to people down there. It's based at the library.
Last question, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Robin and Tracy and Kelly, for your presentation. I'm just wondering if Connected Murihiku could help you with your with the loss of your connector person, your community connect person, whether they would be.
I don't think they're not really set up to provide funding or support. They're more kind of an overarching group to kind of bring others together and to work in the community and support organisations, but not actually provide funding as such. I mean, they're struggling, I think, to find funding to keep their own project going, let alone finding other stuff for other people. So
Thank you very much. Any further comments?
Just on the point that Councillor Dixon has raised there a minute ago, can Connected Murihiku and Community Networking Trust work a lot closer together? Yes, I'm sure they can, but my experience in years over being involved in these organisations is that a lot of government funding for social service initiatives will come to a province, And with Invercargill being the major centre in the province, a lot of it, part of that money that should have been destined for this part of the world tends to stay closer to the centre. And having an organisation like the CNT that's got the mana to deal directly with government on contracts and projects means that the service is delivered in this part of the world. I'm not denigrating Connected Murihiku in any way, shape or form. It's just the way the system works.
Thank you very much for your input and for your presentation. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Did councillors hear that for Sally's presentation, her submission is page 193. It'll be in your bigger document rather than this one, I believe. Sally, do you want to come on up?
Thank you.
So you'll have 5 minutes to speak. There'll be a ding at 4 minutes with 1 minute to go, and then there'll be 5 minutes of questions afterwards where councillors will be able to ask you any questions about your presentation. We're on a tight schedule, so we'll please don't feel, don't take it personally if I have to cut you off.
Pardon?
Don't take it personally if I have to cut you off. We've got to stick to 5 minutes to keep the procedures going.
Right, thank you.
When you're ready.
Right. The purpose of local government is to promote the social, economic, environmental and cultural well-being of communities in the present and for the future. GDC has failed to manage the ratepayers' finances prudently, and therefore the well-being of its residents has been forfeited and the right to live in society has become much harder. Alas, very little thought has been given to the risk of over-indebtedness being shifted to future generations. What future is there for our grandchildren? In 2024, the fertility rate dropped to 1.52, well below the rate required for population replacement. What about the young people who are finding it harder and harder to obtain meaningful employment? GDC seems to be unaware of 5 important priority areas: family, finance, future, farming and freedom. Farming families are perceived by some councillors to have endless cash reserves and should be rated accordingly. Never mind that their essential services are fully funded out of their farming income. Councillor Hovell has made reference that he wants a fairer rating system. What does he mean? The independent member of Audit and Risk in May 2021 expected low interest rates would continue until 27-28. 12 months ago, he thought the council might be close to the peak of interest rates. In May 23rd, Bancourt said that the level of increase of interest rates had been unexpected. In December 23, interest costs were $188K over budget. Was it a good idea that council came reliant on the advice of the Bancourt merchant bankers? What are the costs of receiving this advice? I have serious concerns of GDC becoming a guarantor member of the Local Government FA Act in order to obtain favourable borrowing rates. Disturbingly, I find that the obligations and liabilities are not guaranteed by the Crown. The huge loans must be serviced and are indirectly guaranteed by all New Zealand ratepayers. Having borrowed from the international bankers, when people can't afford to pay their rates, the Council will not be able to pay the interest and debt to the LGFA. Who will take over ownership of our properties? I was born at the end of the Second World War and officially not a boomer. I am concerned at the self-regard of some of the older generation who have had the golden opportunities are missing for our young ones in our society today. I support the Council's call to stop funding for the Ready for Living Coordinator. Let's not forget that the previous year, the ratepayers had a 10.97% increase. The old library is being used for storage for the Arts and Heritage Centre. This is another unnecessary cost of keeping it. Sell it or bowl it. Recycling does not pay. The IPC is government controlled and represents only government opinions, not science. Central government has vastly oversimplified both the problem and solutions of climate change that have led to second-rate policy choices that continue to mercilessly multiply. Councillors must make the call, demand the budgets be reworked now. Reducing the rate increase to the rate of inflation will be a huge benefit to the whole community. Hard times are with the community now. Management must learn to live within the means of what our community is able to afford. The funding of the nice things must cease until our debt levels are under control and the recession we are now living turns round. Consumers have stopped spending. 50% of homeowners will need to reset their mortgages at higher interest rates this year. And so the bad news keeps on going on and on. All unnecessary expenditure must be slashed now. I have heard of what appear to be talks of amalgamation. This is not the answer to sorting out Gore District Council's mess. We would lose our local community identity, have very little say, but still end up paying for the misdemeanours of the past. The ball is in the court of the new Chief Executive to turn GDC around, but the ratepayers have no idea of what instructions the governance arm has given her to lead us into the future. A perusal of the draft plan discloses where numerous savings can be made now. Take the likes of parks and reserves, aquatic, civic buildings, recreation. There are numerous there are 1.71 million things itemised in the plan, and many of them can be taken out. And then we go on to where library furniture, they're wanting 33,000 for that. Library books and canopy, 109,000. A Murihiku security screen partition, 15,000. There are numerous savings to be made in the grant section. Transparency and openness, one of the hallmarks of good local governments, must be brought back now. Ratepayers who are the funders of GDC have for too long lived in a society of secrets. This must stop. The shock of 22% increase should have been communicated months before the release of this draft annual plan. I commend councillors for requesting that the LTP for 25-35 be delayed for 12 months. But will the community be brought on board while the draft LTP is being put together? After all, aren't we the major stakeholders? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally. Just before you take off, if we're able to get a copy of your speech, if you don't mind, and then we'll be able to add it to our minutes as well. But
yes,
I'll open the floor to questions.
Right, thank you.
Councillor McDonald? Just thinking. Councillor Gardine.
Yes, Sally, you referred to debt in the council. What would you think would be a reasonable amount of debt to repay in a year in the situation that we have? From your calculations of debt, you seem to have a lot of information.
Well, that I haven't worked out, Councillor Gardine. I just think that the savings have got to be made in the running of the council so that we can get on top of that debt repayment, and I just don't think interest rates are going to come back soon. And yeah, so no, sorry, I can't, I wouldn't be able to say that.
Did you get your Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Sally. On one hand, you say you want probably more communication about our plans and things you're doing, but you, in your top of your notes here, numerous savings to be made, you want to reduce the communications at the department, so there seems to be a conflict there.
Well, yes, but I don't think the communications thing is working very well, and I'd have to say that what the community is up against is that we no longer have a news media that takes. One time the news media would be just about at every council meeting. It would be reported in the paper. One time we would have the Ensign that would have, say, 3 publications a week. Now it's only 1, and I think you are up against the social media because there's so many different avenues, you know, of where to go there. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't even look at your meetings any longer because people haven't got the time. And I find I don't have the time, more things in life at my stage. But yes, it does sound a bit, yeah, that I'm contradicting myself, but I don't really think that the communications are working well.
Thank you, Sally. Any further questions from councillors? Any further comment from yourself, Sally? I think you've covered quite a few bases there, so you've lots to think about.
There's lots to think about, and to be honest, I think time is against us. I don't think we can wait. There's just too many people hurting out there. I'm on a committee for a scout shop down in Invercargill, and there's a gentleman who drives a lorry for the, I think, distributing chicken around the province. He said the loads that we're carrying now are getting less and less. So the supermarkets, whatnot, are not taking on board more stock. They're just probably only getting the essentials. So I just think for the sake of our younger generation, my generation's had it good. Okay?
Thank you very much, Sally. If someone wants to... Oh, yeah, that would be perfect. Come by and collect it. Emily, did you mind... Oh, once Sally's got it, you all good? Cool. How are councillors feeling? Do we want a break or do we want to move straight on to Margaret? We're okay? Seeing nods. Margaret, did you want to come up? When you're ready, Margaret, your 5 minutes will begin.
Your Worship, councillors, I've lived in this district for 68 years, been involved in a number of organisations, worked in Gore as a qualified psychotherapist and mental health educator for 30 years. Now in my 90s, I frequently walk in parks and reserves. I'm here to ask you not to reduce the parks, cemeteries and reserves budget. Gore District parks and reserves are unique, an outstanding point of difference, one of the main factors attracting tourists to Gore and the district. Last spring, I enjoyed a North Island garden tour with 20 New Zealanders, nobody else from Gore, discovering to my surprise that our rhododendrons excel. Staff at New Zealand's Pukeiti Park recognised this. They asked us where each of us came from. When I answered Gore, they spontaneously informed all of us that Gore's amazing rhododendrons and hosta collections are unsurpassed. A couple of years ago, Pukeiti's Andrew Brooker gifted Gore a selection of rare rhododendrons. He's returning with 30 similar gifts this year. I learnt on that tour people throughout New Zealand are much more aware, knowledgeable and appreciative of the high standard and beauty of Gore's streets, gardens and parks than are many of our residents. I gather expenses have in recent years been much higher than usual. I'm aware of 3 reasons why. Since the turn of the century, maintenance and drainage in Bannerman Park and the 4 district cemeteries had been seriously neglected. Dark, gloomy cemeteries with overgrown trees, damaging graves have now been transformed into attractive, sunny places to visit. Establishing safety was another priority. Removal of trees. A couple of years ago, I was aghast and disapproving to see huge trees being dismantled in Bannerman Park. What a shock to see the grapple attacking the trunks and view these trees disintegrate, totally rotten inside. What a terrible tragedy could have happened in the winds we've experienced since if those trees with hidden trunks had not been removed. Paths in Bannerman Park, a garden of national significance, is unsafe for older people, or they were unsafe. Now we have seats and attractive, safe paths providing access for those in electric scooters, using pushchairs, prams and walkers, older people, such as myself, using walking sticks, enabling them all to traverse and enjoy the entire park. The increase in those using the park is noticeable. Apart from locals, one meets visitors there. An example, a couple visiting from Australia commented that they had been in the habit of annually visiting Queenstown or Wanaka. Since discovering Gore's extraordinary spring beauty, now they spend their holiday week in Gore each year, enjoying our parks, walking paths, tramping tracks, businesses and facilities. Councillors, are you aware of the asset to Gore District that the Parks and Reserves Manager, Keith McRoby, and his energetic team are? Also, the positive way they encourage community and school children's cooperation and involvement in developments over the entire district. These children are proud of their involvement and will care and protect our parks, reserves and gardens for the rest of their lives. Not only does the work of our Parks and Reserves staff attract valuable tourists to the district, it significantly enhances the physical health, mental health and well-being of our residents. Attractive street plantings also enhance the health of our town's air supply. Please ensure this essential department is generously funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. That was a great speech. Councillors, questions? Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Margaret, for your attendance. Would you allow or like to see more involvement from the community and community clubs like garden clubs and that in the development and maintenance of the parks and that? I could see that's also a therapeutical outlet for those people as well.
Did you say, would I like to see more community involvement? I think we are involved. The garden club is involved, the Rhododendron Society is involved. I see a lot of the park on my walks, and I talk with them, and other people do. And I'm also involved with the Pukerau Cemetery, and I'm well aware how they cooperate in all the cemeteries. Now, I would say the public's very involved.
Thank you, Margaret. Any further questions? Councillor Fraser?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Margaret, for a well-presented, we've got the word, doesn't matter. You were probably well aware that a lot of people in this are clearly saying we need to cut this budget and save the money. But from what I get from your point of view is that are we underestimating what how outside people view Gore because of its parks and because of what we do on our main street?
I was so surprised. I had no idea of the awareness of Gore's parks and gardens and our tramping tracks, and particularly our rhododendrons and hostas. I had no idea how the rest of New Zealand looks up to it, appreciates them, and comes to see them. And the couple I met, who come from Australia now every year, they said, Wanaka and Queenstown, no. They said, they've lost it. It's places like Gore that people want to come to. They find it more natural, is what they tell me. More real.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPhail?
Thank you, Margaret. Excuse me. Apologies for my microphone not starting there. With all due respect to your age and you're a senior member of the community, a question I'd like to ask you is, in the past 20 years, if we had negated the maintenance 20 years ago, would we be in the position we're in today with the state of our gardens? Like, have you seen that with your vision and looking at the town for so many decades? If we had stopped at that point, what would we be looking at today?
I can't bear to think. You're asking me if the money that has been put into parks and reserves had stopped at the turn of the century. Is that what you're asking me? We'd still have the bones, but it would take a tremendous amount to get it to where it is here. A lot of the healing and repairing and getting trees as they should be has, in my opinion, taken place since Keith has been here. I think the few preceding years, I'm not sure that Ian was 100% able to. And that's not a criticism.
Thank you, Margaret. One final question for me. If the plantings along the main street were to be planted in something that would last all year, do you think what sort of impact do you think it would have on the town? So not affecting any of the other parks or botanical gardens, just the main street.
Are you saying if we didn't have them?
If we had something planted in there that lasted all year round, so they weren't being changed as often?
It's not changed very often. It's only changed seasonally, and it's beautiful. And our mental health is so important because things aren't good at the moment. And anything that will enhance our physical health and the quality of our air and our mental health is unbelievably important.
I think that's a very touching note to end on. Thank you very much, Margaret, for your presentation and answering our questions here today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Ali, did you want to come up next? Yeah. We'll slot you in now. For those who don't know, Ali is a very freshly minted country music queen, so we'll be representing the Gore District in Tamworth next year, so congratulations. And kick off when you're ready for your 5 minutes.
Okay. Just to be clear, I don't have a lot of knowledge on the statistics around curbside recycling and waste minimisation in Gore. This is very new for me, but what's not new for me, and over the past 7 years especially, is my passion for the environment and sustainability. As you all know, we don't have the yellow bins, and we have the glass bin at the moment. And I guess the reason why I wanted to sit up here today is just to have a chat with you guys, just to see if anything can move further forward than it already is. I'm very passionate about the land. I'm Māori myself. And I guess when I see rubbish going into the ground, like landfills and stuff like that, it's basically, if you can picture Mother Earth sitting on her knees and having rubbish poured into her mouth. That's basically how I think about it. So my goal for today is to hopefully move forward with the curbside recycling. I've been having conversations with the Tauranga District Council and also the Central Lakes District Council to try and see what they're doing and how we can move forward and try and follow in their footsteps. They have 15 people on the waste management team in the Tauranga District Council, and I understand that there's 160,000 residents there and we have around 12. But I still think that there should be movements forward into working on the curbside recycling. But the most important thing for me is actually educating our community on how to recycle first. So over the next 6 to 12 months, I would be happy to put my hand up and take responsibility for educating our community on how to do so. I find it really important to enforce and encourage, I guess, positive reinforcement for our community. So putting gold stars or gold stickers on people's recycling and landfill bins when they do a good job, making them feel good about themselves when they do well, because at the end of the day, everybody really wants to do good. They just have to find out how to do it correctly. So in my submission to the annual plan, there wasn't any criticism towards you guys. Obviously, you're doing everything you can, and priorities change all the time. But for me, I would like to put my hand up and do everything I possibly can, even if it's for free, to help the Gore community to make a change over the next 12 months. If we can introduce the recycling bins before 2025, that would ultimately be great. I would love it. It would make me smile. I take my recycling every week to the Lions, and I'm proud of that. And I do see people putting their recycling in the bins every week as well. I meet 3 or 4 people every week. So they are out there. Our community does want to help. We just have to provide them with the bins and provide them with the resources to do so. And over the next 10 years, I understand it's going to be a discussion with you guys in the council, but I really want to turn it into priority, because it's really important for us to look after our land and our soil. Once landfills are built and once their rubbish is put into the ground, you can't build on top of those landfills. Maybe playgrounds, I'm not sure. You guys know the statistics. But think about all the economic development that we actually could be utilising that land for. So on my headstone when I die, it will be Ali Green closed the landfills of New Zealand. And yeah, that's my passion, that's my love, and I hope that you guys can follow in the footsteps and lean on me to help change the Gore District, the Gore community, not the council, around that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Ali. That was fantastic. Councillor Hovell.
Wearing my hat as chairman of WasteNet, thank you. And with a name like Green, you're a walking example of what we aspire people to be like in terms of their desire to actually contribute. And you can probably expect a phone call from a lady called Fiona Walker, who is the WasteNet manager moving forward. Education, agree, is the key. I'm wondering if there's an intermediate step. At present, all that goes into the yellow bins is glass. How would you feel about if we brought in a scheme where everything that's capable of recycling went into the yellow bins?
I would appreciate the offer. However, the risk of contamination is quite high with that. If you're putting glass and paper and plastic all into the same bin, the risk of that glass smashing and the entire bin going to landfill is quite high, because people unfortunately are busy and they just hiff it in. They haven't got time. They've got to bath the kids and cook tea. So as much as that would be amazing to start off with, I would hope that it would eventually move into a little bit more bins.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And 20% of the waste that goes in the yellow bins ends up in the landfill. Yeah.
Just build on top of that with another question. There was a suggestion that came out of Invercargill, if they were to continue with putting all the plastics and glass in one bin, whether they could put their glass into a plastic bag to then be able to be pulled out at the other end. Any thoughts on that idea?
Plastic bag?
Yeah.
So the plastic would be recycled as part of all the plastics, but then the glass would be taken out. So if it smashes, then it doesn't contaminate the whole bin. It's like putting you on the spot.
I mean, I just don't like the word plastic. I don't like the word plastic at all. So plastic bags, the education around that would have to be really, really key if you're going to enforce that with the community. And unfortunately, it has to be an easy thing to do for them as well. So yes, in all, in the bigger scheme of things, it might be useful, but it has to be it has to be practical for our consumers and our community, because otherwise it's too hard for them to do and they won't do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon and then Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Ali, for a young person coming in here with some inspiring thoughts about waste. My question to you is, do you feel that the government should be promoting more waste minimisation? Because that's where it starts, really. Yep. I appreciate that you talk about education, but I think it needs to come from central government as well.
Yeah, 100%. I would 100% agree with that. It would be great if the government could get on board. I understand there's a lot more priorities in this country than waste and recycling. However, we can't live on the land if we just keep putting rubbish into it. So I think it's a huge thing that needs to be considered from a higher level. But unfortunately, we have to start from the grassroots if the government isn't going to listen. And so getting it into the school programs and waste management programs too would be something I'd love to do as well. But yeah, 100%. If it could come from government, that would be great.
Thank you, Ali. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Ali, and congratulations as well.
Thank you.
The trouble is that I see out there, particularly in the community and the wider community, is half the stuff that we recycle goes somewhere, then ends up in landfill anyway. Just look at the glass mountain that we have here in Gore. It's easy to recycle, but you actually have to have an outcome. I mean, look at Singapore, what they do with their rubbish. It's all burnt, and they produce power from it. Yes, I know in our current climes and climate change, everything else like that, they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
And that's where it needs to go, that if we're going to recycle it, it actually has to go somewhere and be used for something.
Totally agree with you. And look, I'm all for the waste to energy plants. A lot of people in this country aren't, fair enough. But I've seen them in the Netherlands. I lived there for 3 years, and my friend worked for one of the waste to energy plants and said, well, that's just normal to them. That's normally what they do, in France and the Netherlands and Germany, all that sort of stuff. It's a normal process for them, but it's new to us, and it's scary for us to change. We don't know what comes out of those waste to energy plants, all the gases, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is the education. And also, most of the plastics that are created in the supermarkets aren't recyclable anyway. So from higher government, as you were saying, Glenys, it's important for us to stop accepting all of these plastics into our country in the first place, so that our consumers don't have to go through the stress of trying to recycle something that is not possible. And then it's also going into the supermarkets, and I had this idea of basically doing a supermarket shop at New World and utilising this one of my seminars and telling people how to recycle all of the stuff that's in my trolley, and whether or not it can be recycled or not, and stop buying the things that we can't be recycled, so then people actually can do good. Yeah, so.
Thank you. Councillor Stringer.
Thanks, and congratulations. So you'd advocate for a waste-to-energy plant in Gore going forward as a way of dealing with waste and waste from the surrounding district?
I mean, there would have to be, as I said, I don't know the statistics and the politics around how that would work, and obviously would have to make sure that the toxins or the chemicals or everything that was produced from all of that waste is not going to harm our environment to the extent of what a landfill is with the methane that comes out of those. But all of that would have to be discussed. I understand that. I don't have the knowledge around that. But, you know, the plant that's in Matera that's just sitting there is the old paper mill. People have come to me and said, man, that'd be a good way to just put a small waste-to-energy plant in there to go through all the rubbish. I don't know if that's possible, but that's just some ideas that have been thrown around to me as I've been talking to the Gore community, especially over the past 6 months. So obviously it's a lot of work to build a waste-to-energy plant. I've seen the one that's going to be built in Waimate. It's around the 700 million or something like that. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but someone's got to try.
Last question, Councillor Gardine.
Yes, Sally, it's good to see you're involved in giving your waste to the Pākehā Lions, and that's an initiative we've got in Gore, and we're actually recycling, and we're doing some recycling at the tip face at the dump with cans and tin and glass. And I think, do you think that it's more important to encourage local recycling and save on the carbon to cart it to Invercargill, and then if it fails, it gets carted back to our tip at Winton, and then to have curbside recycling and encourage people to actually drop stuff off?
100%. I think the whole idea with sustainability is not only talking about the environment, but it's also living a more sustainable life. So living off your own vegetable gardens, living off the farmer's milk, living off the farmer's meat, and not actually relying on other people to feed your family. So I guess if people can become more sustainable in themselves and the way their mindset and their living and their health, it's automatically going to reduce the amount of plastic and waste that we're creating in the first place, because we're not having to go to New World and buy plastic wrapped meat and packets of chips and all this sort of stuff. I mean, chips are great, but you know, that sort of thing. So I guess it's an overall well-being look. It's not just about the environment, it's about trying to teach people how to live more sustainably themselves. I know it's stressful because, you know, everyone goes to work and you can't be bothered cooking, but eventually coming back to what they used to do back in the day. My grandmother, she's great with her farm. They recycle and they compost and everything like that. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Ellie. That was great. Cheers for coming up.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, we've got Bev, or Grey Power. Good to see you. When you're ready.
Right, my name is Glenys Jones and I'm the Publicity Officer for Grey Power, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Grey Power on the submission of reducing the parking in Gore from 80 years down to 75. We put in a submission. The elderly have had children in Gore, paid their tax, supported the town, brought their children up, and the parents are here in Gore supporting the town, paying their tax and paying their rates and generally driving around in Gore. It's a privilege to drive in Gore when you're over 70. And at 80 years of age, I think we deserve to come down to 75. Now, to get our licence, we have to pay $95 to $100 for a medical licence at the medical centre or at a doctor. To me, this is absolutely very high, but to be able to drive at our age, we have to go through the procedure. Also, we have to pay our licence on top of that. So that comes to about $125. At 75, you get it done once. When you're 80, you get it done every 2 years, and when you're 85, you get it done every year. So there are over 800 people that I know that are registered to get the free parking at 80 years of age. In the rest of New Zealand, there are towns who have got it down to 75 years of age. And I think we deserve, we're independent, we get from A to B driving our cars, and I think at the end of the day it would be great if we could drop it down to 75 years of age. And I think we deserve it.
Thank you very much. I will open the floor to questions from councillors. Councillor Stringer.
This is an open question to anyone here. Do we know why it is currently set at 80?
I believe it was through the We're Ready for Living program originally. Yeah, is it?
Sorry to differ, but I think that actually came before council from them, and we actually agreed to that process. So, yes.
Yep. Thank you, Glenys, for your discussion there. Yeah, obviously, 75-year-olds around town are very active, and they do get around, and we've got an ageing population right through there.
Exactly.
So, which is great. Maybe we should be looking at. I'm just trying to recall with our swimming. Maybe it is time that we do have that review around the 75. But as we said, we did go through it through part of the Ready for Living last triennium, and we set it at 80. So, but fair comments, good comments, and maybe it is something that needs to come back to the table. But maybe swimming should be looked at there as well. I think, someone correct me, around our age swimming is at 80 as well, to encourage lifestyle change and fitness.
We appreciate you giving us a free swim at the baths at 80 years of age. We are an ageing population. A lot of people retire to Gore. They have to get from A to B, to the doctor, to the shopping mall, and you only pass your licence at the medical centre or at a doctor if you are able. If you do not pass that test, you do not get your licence. So those people that are driving are responsible, and I think you should seriously consider dropping it to 75. Keep in contact with the rest of New Zealand.
Thank you, Glenys. And sorry for calling you Bev before. My apologies. I hope your son is doing well. I haven't seen him in a while, which is probably a good thing. Any further questions from councillors? Pretty simple. Thank you very much. Really
Good.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much for listening.
Mark and Peter, did you want to come on up when you're ready? You have 5 minutes. Take it away.
Oh, thank you, Mayor and councillors, and I'll let Peter read out our submission. Yeah, Mayor Ben, councillors, ratepayers and residents. There are two main issues confronting your council and the ratepayers today: debt and spending. A clearly out of control and accelerating council expenditure, resulting in an average increase of 21.4% in rates for this year and something similar for next year. And secondly, an accelerating council debt that has grown from $9 million in 2002 to $54 million at present, rising to $61 million at this year's end. An annual interest bill of $2.5 million. Now, this is a concern. Council debt is secured by a rate on ratepayers' property. Local government debt is considered a very safe investment because it is backed by the property, the home, the life savings of the ratepayer. If you cannot pay your rates, the council can take your property, take your home and sell it. Council can squeeze blood from a stone. Council has been writing cheques on ratepayers' property. Debt has continued to grow without any clear plan of how to pay it back. Council has exposed ratepayers to potential financial disaster, and at a time of serious international instability. Spending and growing debt was intended to help attract a growing population base, to help spread the load. Yet the population has dropped from 14,500 people down to below 12,400 at the last census. The proposed rate hike will strip further discretionary spending from the community. The flow-on effects could be significant, depressing economic activity, adding to rising costs. In many ways, the council is analogous to the cotton boll weevil that eats the heart out of the cotton boll. It is a ravenous organisation growing and consuming the resources of the Gore District ratepayer from the inside out. Council is expecting ratepayers to do something that it is not prepared to do itself. Council expects ratepayers to tighten their belts and to live on less. The concept of health and well-being has been used many times when embarking on spending and borrowing. It is forgotten that an important part of people's ability to maintain health and well-being is being able to comfortably afford the necessities of life with minimum stress. The proposed rate increase will depress economic activity in the district and at the same time will add to rising costs, seriously harming local families, local business, the business environment and local activities. There is also a risk of land use change on marginal country. Forestry can and is replacing sheep and beef to the detriment of a service town like Gore. The council has been warned about debt over the years. Debt has been seen by many councillors as a legitimate way of funding council activities. Debt has been grown without any clear plan of how to pay it back. Like fire, debt is a useful slave and a fearful master. Councils point to central government and blame them for dumping rules and regulations and other stuff on them without funding the costs. This council should join with other councils. Indeed, they should lead other councils to take up the issue forcefully with central government. They need to continually revisit these issues until a sensible outcome is attained. You must remember, this was proven possible by Mayor Murihiku and Councillor Alistair McLennan when they divested and rid the council of the costs of the old coach road. Take the government head on, be aggressive and don't let go. You have better claim on the support of the people of the Gore district than central government can claim. So therefore you have the moral high ground. If central government is confronted with actually funding their dictates, it may result in better policies and less interference. The grief, concern and anxiety that we saw on the day of the announcement of the rate increase in April, we would like to see throughout the year. Keeping costs down should be a daily and active mantra. Recovering liquidity from duplicated assets, identifying and selling off surplus council properties is a valid way of reducing debt and interest cost. You have 2 libraries in Gore, sell one of them. You owe this to ratepayers who are currently paying interest on the new library. Heritage and Parks and Reserves have their supporters and champions amongst the ratepayer base. We suggest a donation form be issued with each rate demand, offering any ratepayer the opportunity to financially support any council activity that they wish. The results of this could be quite surprising. Another suggestion, to reduce cost, plant perennials instead of annuals and flower beds. And was the suggestion of running water pipes through a box culvert buried in the riverbed ever fully investigated by a civil engineer? Contrast that with drilling under the riverbed at a cost of $3.9 million. We request that you carefully consider our submission.
Could I add one wee bit to that? Also, we've just heard a wee rumour around saying, oh, that we never, that we never rated hard enough in the past. Well, if you do the calculations since 2002, we've had over 177% rates increase. So that's a wee bit of a baloney statement going around. Thank you.
Just to add on to that comment, you hear that comment from time to time, we've underrated in the past, or the other one about kicking the ball down the road. Those are statements that sound almost true, but they're not. They are basically councillors giving themselves licence to spend more. We've survived up to date, so we haven't underrated in the past.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I will open up to questions. Councillor Gardine.
With the debt at 54 million and going to 60 million, what would your thinking would be for what sort of money should we be paying back every year from council rates to reduce that debt? And I know it's going to be growing for the next 2 years maybe, but I mean in the long run and looking at long term, what sort of rate reduction would you expect from the rates?
Well, I'd say first of all, I wouldn't have full information about that, so I couldn't really comment on that. You're the guys that raised it, or your predecessors did. I think that's the ball's in your court. Yep.
Thank you for that. Going again, Councillor Gardine.
would you be happy with our 21.4% rate rise if we had a significant amount going to debt reduction?
What would you call significant?
3 million?
Well, first of all, of course, the thing is the rural people are only getting 14%. We don't actually incur the costs of some of these other piles of debt. So that would be unfair to apply that to rural people.
Just the principle though, because the rates have actually risen in proportion to where you pay. Like Three Waters people have had a higher rate rise than the people in the rural area that don't have Three Waters.
In 2001, we submitted and we got a rate reduction policy put in place with Mayor Owen O'Connor. And 2 years later, when Owen was gone, they went and just used that money and stopped the debt reduction payment. We've tried it in the past and it just, you know, and it wasn't very fair really, because people were rated that extra bit and we had a plan in place and Owen O'Connor was right behind that and it would have reduced the rate, but no, they just carried on and just ignored it down the track, and it was it was an opportunity at that point in time to have had the district in a really good position, because we had the rates go up. I can't remember what it was, I'd have to look back, but it was something like we went from 4 or 5% up to about 7% for those couple of years just to get that rate, that debt reduction policy in place to move along. And it would have snowballed in time and we would have had the debt down in no time. So it was an opportunity lost, unfortunately. But going back to John, how can you go doing a debt thing when we've got a 21%? It's not easy. Where we've been caught out is we've had councils in the past been too soft, haven't been stringent enough on the borrowing. Some of these frilly projects we've been doing. Now, another thing we didn't mention in that submission was, you know, economy of scale, 12,400 residents for a debt like this. What are we doing? Maybe we've got to look at amalgamation. Maybe you need to be exploring that with Clutha and Southland or something, getting a really strong rural district where we'd have 60,000 people. This beautiful office here could cater for that quite nicely. And we can spread the load properly, you know, more effectively over all the ratepayers without the strain. Because I tell you what, going forward next year, if we carry on like this, 21 next year, we're going to have chaos. You're going to have ratepayers out there. All sorts of things will be floating around, like rate revolt and all sorts of stuff. And we don't want that. I feel sorry for some of the young new councillors. Ben, new mayor, some of the councillors are new on here. It's not your, you know, you've just inherited this problem. But there's always a starting point, John, and we need a plan. We need a plan to help this district. And a lot of it is, we've listed out a lot of stuff here, I haven't got time to read it all out, of things, you're going to have to look at cutting things, you know, giving away grants there and everywhere. We've got the MLT, a lot of districts don't have that. And take the Waikaia Heritage Museum. They went out and they raised 1.6 million, beautiful setup, and they did it, they didn't get ratepayer money. They rolled their sleeves up as a community and they did it that way, because they wanted it. You know, it's been easy to come in here for the last 15 years. I've sat in there and watched people coming in and just grab and, oh, can we have this, that? Oh, yeah, right, let's just give it to them. Nice gestures. You're going to have to toughen up. You've got everything. The town's got everything now. You've got to toughen up. Can you add to that, Peter?
Yeah, I think you can follow on from that, so investigate shared services with other councils, like building, the building department. The other thing is, I think as a principle, you should actually concentrate on repaying debt out of savings, become more efficient. That would be a pain-free way of dealing with it. But the important thing, to make the point there, and that is, this is a full-time, all-year-round activity, concentrate on keeping costs down, keeping the lid on. The last day of the year is a bad time to start. You've actually got to keep on it all the time. Because every dollar you take potentially from a ratepayer's bread from the mouth of a baby or something, like, that's what people are. I didn't realise how bad the situation is out there for some people. Yeah. The thing is, the council sends them hate mail 4 times a year, and people stop breathing when they walk in from the mailbox. So it's a serious issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and for coming here today. But also, Mark, this is the 3rd time that I've heard from you during the submission process, so it's fantastic, and 2nd time for you, Peter. So it's really great that you guys are voicing your concerns. I think there's some fantastic ideas in there, so just really appreciate you actually sharing your voice. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Cheers.
Are we able to grab, sorry Peter, are we able to grab just a copy of your speech if you don't mind? Makes it easier for our minute taker here. Next up we have Lisa. Do we have Lisa around? Do we know? Just check outside quickly. Thank you. No luck. Sharon, did you want to come up? Welcome. Your 5 minutes will begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'd like to acknowledge, first and foremost, what has happened previously, which you guys have, especially the new ones, haven't had a lot of input on. It comes down to really basics. We just can't afford the increase. It's just really quite simple. Nobody can in the town or on the farm, and that doesn't matter whether you're farming or whether you are a pensioner in town. So we have to reduce to learn to live within our budget. We have, the council has to as well. I understand one of the problems is with the water and the cost of putting the water across and having it ready by 2025. Maybe it's time for us to stand up as a council, put a proposal to the minister, who's Simeon Brown, whoever he is, to push out, or at least another 5 to 10 years, and look at pushing it out and see if we can get some support there. There must be a plan A. I mean, you know all know where I've worked. There was always 25 letters in the alphabet. Find another plan, another way of doing it. So go to Simeon Brown and say, we can't afford it. At the moment, can we put it out? With a little bit of luck, the legislation will change. The other concern to me is that our businesses in town, potentially with this rates increase, we all know as landlords, that it's going to go up for everybody. What's it going to do? It's going to put it up for the poor businessman in town. Now, I run Patterson Park and Gardens, and I make no money, okay? If it wasn't for the farm funding me, I wouldn't be in business. So landlords, with rents going up, what are we going to do to our town? Our town is going to become dead. If you go down Eric Street now, we've got a whole lot of empty shops. It's only going to get worse. So we have to find smarter ways, and it's back to watch the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. Sorry, that's got to have to happen, okay? At the moment, going forward with the rates, and as we are, it's not progress. We're going out the back door. The consent in the RMA process, which I've worked through several times, is a very extremely costly process. And also what it does, it makes businesses not keen to start up in our district. So that is something we also need to address, because I've been through that several times as well. For a garden of 5.5 acres, it cost me $2,500 to get consent. I have to reconsent my kitchen each year. Then I make no money from April till October, and they decided after 3 years to come and check my consent, okay, and charge again. And I'd already done, so that was another $500 all up. I just said, look, I can't pay. The lovely girl, new town planner, whoever she is, said, that's fine, we won't charge you. So basically, we need to push back at the next level up and at the next level up. And I think you'll find your communities behind you. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Questions from councillors? Councillor Val.
There's two sides to every coin. One is savings, the other one is selling assets. Do you think we should be looking at selling some of our assets, like some of the reserves we don't use, land that we own, etc.?
If after looking at it, perhaps yes. If it's relevant. Do we need them all? Our population's diminishing. Do we need all our parks? We are one of the most amazing districts. We've got the ice skating, the pool, the everything else. Do we need everything?
Thank you, Sharon. Any further comments, questions, sorry? Oh, Councillor Fraser.
Thanks, Sharon. I couldn't agree more with the RMA in consents. Actually, I fully support you on that. As a council and being new, and I don't like saying being new on the council, but the biggest problem I see, and I'd like your opinion on this, is that we had a change of government last year. Three Waters was thrown out, and as a local authority, we are sitting here going, how are we going to fund going further forward? And it is of a concern to me, is that in 3 years' time we could have another change, or 2 years, and we get another government, and then we get another way, and we get another, and that is where local council is getting hamstrung, I believe.
This is where, as councillors, you need to get together and stand up and hold it all accountable, because we just can't have it keeping coming down. I'm hoping that we don't get another change of government, and I'm just very disappointed that some of the regulations are still waiting to be changed, that are hamstringing a lot of environment, Southland and you guys, because I know they're sitting there. And hopefully the pullback in places has not been quite fast enough. But I'm hoping common sense will prevail, and by having people speak out, hopefully we will get there. But as we don't know the future, we don't know, there might be another COVID. Who's going to know? So we've got to do the best.
Councillor McPhail.
Yep. Thanks, Sharon. That was a great discussion. Question I have asked regarding an organic or a small business that you have, do you think that Gore or the council, that support was there? Like, do you think there's any support around as the ratepayer with their small business?
No, nothing.
Nothing?
I don't need any though. Okay.
But do you think if you had to, when you had the issue with the checks and the, like your RMA or your kitchen health and safety, food standards, do you think that there is the process in there for you to know where to go to, or do you ever have any?
I've got to say, Frances is the most amazing lady to deal with. Yep. She's been very supportive all the way, and the nice young town planner, whoever she was, that come out, had never seen a garden like that anyway. She was fantastic to work with all the way through. They've been just great. It's just an additional cost. I would like to see us have our own town planners. Okay, instead of going to Queenstown, and that's with a lot of the things we do, we need to have our own people on the ground instead of contracting out. Because the likes of her, she wanted to understand the business, she wanted to understand the district, and she is the best thing for us, instead of us going to Queenstown for town planners or whatever. So we need to go back to having our own grader drivers that understand and drive on the roads and all these things, because you get a grader driver, he's got no idea. You end up with just as many potholes as before.
Thanks, Sharon. We'll keep the pothole discussion just for another day.
No, you're not going to go there?
But no, exactly.
Sure,
I appreciate your answer. I do.
Yeah, but I've got to say, Frances is the most amazing lady to deal with, as is your town planner, and it's all about how you interact with them. So, yeah, that's been no problem at all.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Any further questions? We still have 3 minutes. I think that was just the first thing for the first 5 minutes. Yeah.
That's right, Ben. You know how I feel. You've had to deal with me already. So it's Keith.
Oh, it's great.
Okay.
Leave it there, councillors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Lisa, are you ready?
I am. Are you?
Come on up. Yes, I think so.
Okay. Thank you for this time. I appreciate it. I done quite a submission on a whole heap of different points. So I've sat there and I thought, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm just going to go wham bam on the things I think are really, really important. So am I allowed to start before the bell? Okay, cool. Okay, the 10-year plan's a waste of time. I think you should take that to the government. In 1 or 2 years, it's going to be outdated anyway. We're in huge debt. At the submission, we were told in 7 years we're going to be bankrupt. So I think we should go to the government. For instance, I've been saying this to people, the fluoride in the water that we're going to have costs $250,000 a year. If we have to borrow that money, we have to pay interest on that money. So they've made a law to say that we have to have it, we have to borrow the money from them, we have to pay interest on it. 99.5% of the people I've spoken to don't want the fluoride. So you need to go to the government and say, this is unsustainable for our area, for our rating area, and we don't want it, and my constituents are really angry about this. My personal view is it's money laundering, but that's only my personal view. Overspending. As I said in the submissions, we need to change tack and use the council as a going enterprise, a business model, if you say. So, for instance, if our pool's not being used for the hours it's open, maybe we need to look at time that the pool can be utilised in such a way that people will go at that time. I've been there and there's been 4 lifeguards watching me, and feels a bit perverted, but anyway, good on them. So you really do need to, the library's the same. I've been to the library and been the only one there. I will say that the Matera Library does need to stay open because it's our only point of call for the council. So I think it's quite important that that does stay open. There's a lot of other amenities that we can change. There's a lot of parks that I think we're overrun with parks. Beautification. So in the submission there was a lady there, an elderly lady who runs the meals for Matera for the old people, and she says there's a really dangerous place outside there where people have slipped over and the guttering stuff. The community board want to beautify an area by the river when there is old people in danger of falling over and breaking hips and legs. So I really think we need to be accountable for where we're spending, whether it be here or Matera, and we need to actually make some sense, fiscal sense, not I want to see our town pretty as can be, so we're going to plant some plants here. We're past there, we're in debt. You don't go to a person who's in debt and say, go and get a facial when they can't afford their food. So we've got to actually think really hard about what we're spending and where we're spending it on. The last lady said about town planners. I touched on this. So a friend of mine who's helping me open up a bakery bought a piece of land and wanted it rezoned so he could put a truck stop there. And the council planners put a no on it when he asked for resource consent. That land is now empty. It's been up for sale for quite some time. It's along the Matera has got a truck bypass, believe it or not. It's along the Matera truck bypass. It makes sense. You've got the RSA there, you've got the youth centre there, there's I think it's called Mantels, car painters or whatever they are right there. And there's a new, Mike Whale was got resource consent, and if the demolition people get back, we're going to have a bakery with a 250-seater amphitheatre, cafe, and I want to see Matera go ahead, and the way it is, it's not going to go ahead. We're going to end up bankrupt with Gore.
Thank you very much for that, Lisa, and thank you for your attendance at the drop-in sessions as well.
You're
Much
welcome,
appreciated.
thank you.
Councillors, questions? Councillor McPhail.
Thanks, Lisa. Just exploring the Matera Library staying open, you're almost saying it's like a last bastion of the council. So what else gets done in there? Like what other, can you enlarge, what services and stuff do you do there, and
I think it can be utilised in a far better way. So there was, in the holidays, our youth centre isn't running all the time because it's a youth trust that owns it and all the people there work. So it could certainly be utilised by a lot. The blind, low vision, I have a wee bit to do with them. They said they could utilise it a lot better. So it's working smarter, not harder. even if you shut it, say, from 10 until 4, we've still got 5 days a week. And if we put it out there that this is we need to use it or we're going to lose it, I'd really be hoping that other community-based things would come on board. Can only try. You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. Lisa, just a question. Are the community board aware of the leaking roof at senior citizens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Lisa, for your presentation today.
Thank you very much.
Now, we are running a little bit ahead of schedule, but do we have Ian here? Oh. All yours, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, this morning after my walk, and I picked up a whack of rubbish again, but I put it in the bins outside the houses. So I sat down, and I got the iPad out, and I read all the submissions twice. In fact, the iPad went flat at the end. And the one thing that got me above all, the one thing that you as a council have got to get your head around, the rates. The rates are phenomenal. How are you going to do it? I've scribbled some bits of things down here. The debt that we're in, I don't know how we're going to pay it and survive as a council. My great-grandkids will still be paying this off. I know they will. And that's correct. And I'm really surprised that the senior members of the council allowed this to happen. Not you, Mr. Bell. Why they allowed it to happen, thinking that, oh, the day will never come, that we have to repay it. But we have. It's here now. Right, what? So how do we get the rates down to a reasonable level? Well, reading the iPad twice over, a lot said we have to cut staff. Parks and Gardens, I'm sorry, but the lady who was here, she did a really good talk about the Parks and Gardens, and I totally agree with her. We've got some beautiful gardens here, but they cost. So the next thing is, right, so we have to cut staff, and you have to get on with the next CEO and make this happen. And all councillors, don't just sit there, you've got to say, yes, we have got to do it. Pensioners and families on low wages just cannot afford these rates. They're stupid. And you know it. I'm getting really wild about this. Glenys, you know how I feel about it. I myself will be struggling to pay 24.4% rate rise myself. I can't do it. What do? What do we do? Now, this is how it's come to. Right, get rid of the rates. The next thing is the waste. Chairman across there of the waste. Right, waste. After this morning's episode of picking the rubbish up and all that, I think, well, what can we do? As you know, I recycle my tins. I do my cardboard and paper, milk bottles, all get washed, squashed, the blue tops go in a separate bag. Great. I'm about the only one on the street that does it. But I do it because I know I started all this using all the plastics because I used to work in the plastics industry. And I thought, God, Ian, you created something when you started. I did. So the thing is, what do we do with all the glass? What do we do with it? Can somebody tell me, what do we do with the glass? Please, enlighten me.
Did we want to stop here? We can circle back to questions.
No, that's a question to the Mr. Havellner. What do we do with the glass?
At present,
Bottles.
without a market for processing, it's been stored.
It is stored?
Yes. But we recognise that there is an issue, and WasteNet itself is in the coming year will be trying to work together in a more coordinated way across all waste.
Now then, if we collect cardboard and plastics, what do we do with them? What do we do with the plastics? I mean, plastics are a pain in the backside because you can hardly read what they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know it. Yesterday I looked at the milk bottle again, thinking, God, there's something here, and yes, it tells you little small writing, recyclable. And I see the Packeteer Alliance, which do a damn good job, a really good job. They bail them up and send them away, which is very good. And I think that as a council, we should encourage that more, for people to recycle the plastics. Some of the plastics, well, in fact, nearly all the plastics goes to the dump. Is this going to continue? You know, once we start the waste thing in 18 months' time, whatever, will it continue?
Last thought there, Ian. Your time's up.
Right, my time is up. Right.
Jump into questions if you like. Happy with some questions? If there's no
I
questions.
suppose a quick question to some of you councillors. How am I, as a pensioner, going to afford 24.4% rate rise? Anybody tell me? I get the allowance of $750, right? Now, somebody please tell me. Do I sell the house? Do I go and live in a caravan? That's it. This is the question that a lot of pensioners and solo parents, they're all struggling like hell, all because of the actions of our council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I'll just try and let some councillors ask you some questions so we can get a little bit more out of you. Do we have questions from councillors? Councillor McPhail.
May as well take my life into my own hands with you, Ian. But,
good luck.
I have a question in regard to the recycling, and that we have the existing, and obviously you know I'm a big advocate of Pakiki and what they do there. In discussions recently around the bins, how do we encourage an older population, some that don't take their, they believe that they think it's that we should be leaving a bin there for them to put there so it gets taken away and recycled. How do we, and I know I didn't get a chance to ask Ali, how do we encourage people to actually do what you're doing? You know, I'm interested in your commentary.
Yeah, I was up at my daughter's at the weekend, up in Dunedin, and on her bin, her red bin, there's a list of things that you can put in the bin. Now, whether we go to that, where we put notices on bins to say what they can put in the bin, I don't know. And people will just go, especially go, because they've been so used to chucking everything in the bin. It's going to be hard, very hard, to change their attitude. Whether somebody from the council goes round and looks at all the bins, and those that have not conformed, you put a big sticker on it. Not emptied, because it is contaminated with, well, whatever. We've got to be hard about this. If we go to recycle, we'll recycle. And it's not that hard. I mean, I can do it, piece of cake. Like, Dennis might do it. So.
Thank you, Ian. Some good feedback. Any other questions there, councillors? Councillor Val?
You'll be pleased to know, at least when it comes to soft plastics, that is about to be set up in some businesses in town here for recycling soft plastics.
Oh.
It's happening in Invercargill a couple of weeks ago, and it's coming here next month.
Right.
Councillor Phillips?
Thank you, Your Worship. Also, Ian, I'm on the WasteNet group for the council, and I like your idea about the age-friendly sticker that's on the thing that is not age-friendly, and I'll take that back to the WasteNet group and see if we can't sort of push the issue about that, and perhaps having a different, either larger stamp or something that's easier to read on a recycled product. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's on the bin, and it clearly states what you can and can't put in the red bin. But getting the getting the Go ratepayers to do that, to look at what they should and shouldn't put in the bin, is a different kettle of fish.
Last question, Councillor McKenzie.
Ian, your thoughts, please, on recycling if we had more drop-off points around town. Do you think people would use them?
Yes,
They could arrive in the car and say, right, let's put that one in there, that one in there, and that one in there. If there was more of those stations, do you think that would help?
It would help, but to change the attitude of Go ratepayers is damn hard.
Yeah.
Believe you me. And you'll probably end up, if you have bins there, they'll be chucking everything and anything in it. Anything and everything will go in that. It's just, it probably would work in the end, but getting the Go ratepayers or the Go people to put the correct items in that.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ian. Really appreciate your feedback.
Right, I shall walk home. Right. Yeah, oh, I'll pick it up. Don't worry about that. Bloody tins. Jeez.
Thank you very much, councillors, staff and also members of the public for coming along today. I will bring the meeting to a close and we will do it all over again tomorrow.